There's a quiet moment in every trader's journey. When the noise fades, the charts blur, and what remains is the question that decides everything. Can you hold? Most traders believe this game is about action, about buying, selling, reacting to every tick. But the real mastery lies in the silence that follows, the silence between profit and loss, between conviction and fear. That silence is where I lived, where I learned that patience isn't just a virtue, it's survival. And in that silence, I discovered a truth most traders never will. The market doesn't test your strategy, it tests your nerve. Every price movement is a question, every hesitation, a mirror. And those who cannot stand the quiet will never last long enough to hear the answer. This is my psychology of holding trades. The lesson every trader learns too late, and the one that can change everything if learned in time. Most traders think their test begins when they click buy or sell. They think discipline is about finding the right entry, catching the right moment, spotting the signal that others missed. But the real test begins after you're in the trade. That's where the market truly meets your mind. That's where you discover whether you're a trader or just a gambler dressed as one. I've seen it countless times, in others and in myself. You study, you wait, you analyze, you finally pull the trigger, and for a moment you feel power, you feel control. But the second the market begins to move, even slightly against you, that illusion breaks. Your mind becomes restless, your confidence starts to tremble, and suddenly every tick feels personal. That's when traders make their biggest mistake. They close too early. They take small profits because they fear losing the little they've gained. They run from discomfort. The irony is, the market rewards the few who can sit still. You see, when I first began trading, I thought the secret was to trade often. I thought activity meant success. The more I moved in and out, the more alive I felt, as if motion itself was progress. But it wasn't. I was mistaking movement for growth. And that's the same mistake most traders still make today. The real art in trading isn't in pulling the trigger. It's in holding your fire when everything in you screams to act. It's in the silence between decision and result. And it's in the restraint not to touch what's already working. That silence feels unbearable to most people because silence leaves room for doubt. And doubt, when mixed with money, becomes torment. Let me tell you something I learned after years of both fortune and ruin. You cannot grow your account if you cannot master your emotions while waiting. You can't expect large results while chasing small comforts. Every big move I ever caught, every great profit, came not from my brilliance but from my patience, from doing nothing. I used to watch other traders panic as soon as their trades turned green. They'd whisper to themselves, "Take it before it turns," and they'd grab those tiny wins, proud for a moment, then spend the rest of the day watching the market run without them. That pain, the pain of being right but not richly right, is the hardest lesson of all. The market doesn't reward the clever, it rewards the still. The man who can hold a good position long enough to let it mature is rarer than a genius who can predict the next move. When I held my trades, truly held them, I was no longer fighting the market, I was fighting myself. My fear of losing, my urge to control, my craving for certainty. And that, dear friend, is the essence of trading psychology. It's not about learning to predict, it's about learning to endure. The test isn't technical, it's emotional. Can you stand the storm without running to the shore? Can you watch a wave pull back without assuming it's over? Can you let profit breathe, even when every part of you wants to grab it? Most traders can't. That's why they stay small, not in capital, but in character. The longer I traded, the clearer it became. Holding is where the fortune lies. Not holding blindly, not stubbornly, but with understanding, with conviction, born from preparation. When you truly understand why you're in a trade, you can stand still while others panic. You can be silent while others scream for action. You can wait, and in that waiting, you separate yourself from the crowd, and that's when you stop trading noise and start trading truth. The hardest thing for a trader to accept is that doing nothing can often be the most profitable move of all. It feels unnatural, it feels passive, it feels like surrender. We are built to do, not to wait. And yet, in trading, waiting is the highest form of action. When you're in a position and the market is moving, you feel alive. Every tick of the tape feels like a heartbeat. You watch the profit rise, fall, rise again. You tell yourself, I'll just take it here before it slips. And you do. You take it, and the market keeps going. That's the cruel rhythm every trader dances to until he learns the truth. It's not movement that makes you money, it's duration. The man who can sit through the noise collects the real prize. Because markets don't reward the first move. They reward the sustained move, and most people never stay long enough to see it. When you close too early, what you're really doing is trying to regain control. The open profit feels fragile, temporary, like something that can vanish if you don't act fast enough. But that's the illusion. You think you're controlling risk. What you're really controlling is your fear. Every trader wants certainty, but the market sells uncertainty by the pound. If you can't stand not knowing, you'll pay for that need with premature exits, missed trends, and endless frustration. I used to feel that itch in my fingers, that restless energy that told me, lock it in, Jesse. Don't let it slip. But I learned the market doesn't care what I lock in. It doesn't care about my comfort. It only cares about the strength of the move and the patience of those who ride it. There's a strange paradox in trading. The less you interfere, the more the market pays you. The more you try to manage every wave, the more you drown in your own noise. That's the control paradox, the feeling that unless you're constantly adjusting, you're being irresponsible. But in truth, it's the constant adjusting that destroys your edge. The best trades I ever made worked not because I managed them perfectly, but because I had the courage to leave them alone. The market doesn't need your help to move in your favor. It needs your patience to let it. When you learn to trust your setup, truly trust it, you don't feel that panic to exit early. Because you know the reason behind your position. You know your structure, your logic, your signal, and when you know why you're in, you can endure the noise without fear. But when you trade from impulse, when you enter without conviction, you'll always feel the need to exit fast. Because you don't trust yourself. You're not holding the trade, you're holding anxiety. The market has a cruel way of teaching humility. It will tempt you with small wins so that you abandon the big ones. It will reward impatience just enough to make it seem logical until you look back and realize how much you've left on the table. Every time I cut a trade early out of fear, the market whispered the same truth to me. You didn't trust your own judgment. That realization hurts more than any loss because it shows you the problem was never the market. It was you. Patience isn't passive. It's the highest form of strength. It's saying, I've done my work. Now I'll let time do its part. It's self-control disguised as stillness. Most traders don't lose to volatility. They lose to their own reflection, to the side of themselves that can't sit still long enough for success to mature. And the cruel irony is this: when they finally do get out, when they close early, feeling relieved, the market moves exactly as they first expected. And they're left watching, bitter, realizing that their impatience cost them more than any stop loss ever could. You must learn to let go of the need to control outcomes. You can't predict every wave. You can't calculate every tick. You can only position yourself and wait. Waiting is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that profits are not harvested by movement but by time. When I learned that, I began to see the market differently. Every bar on the chart wasn't a threat. It was a test of patience, a test of belief, a test of whether I could trust my work enough to let it play out. That's when I began to grow, not in technique, but in temperament. And temperament, my friend, is what separates traders who survive from those who vanish. But stillness is the last thing most people are comfortable with. We live in a world that glorifies activity. Do more, they say, and trade more, click more, be more involved. But I learned, in markets, as in life, the more noise you make, the less you hear. It took me years to understand that money is made by sitting, not by thinking, not by tinkering, by sitting still. The discipline of stillness is not the absence of action. It's the mastery of restraint. It's choosing not to react when every part of you wants to. It's staying in position when fear whispers, get out while you can. You see, the market's greatest weapon isn't volatility, it's temptation. It tempts you to move. It tempts you to overthink. It tempts you to abandon the very thing that's working. The ones who fall for that temptation are the ones who never stay long enough to see the full move. They trade to feel safe, not to win. They exit early to silence their anxiety, not to follow their plan. But the ones who can wait, those are the ones who rise above the crowd. Because the longer you hold a correct position, the less it becomes about the market, and the more it becomes about your self-mastery. Every trade you hold tests something deeper than skill. It tests your ability to trust, to detach, to stay calm in uncertainty. And that's what separates the professional from the emotional. I remember holding positions that made me question my sanity. I'd see fluctuations, reversals, false breaks. Every voice around me would say, "Take it, Jesse, it's enough." But I learned, enough is often the enemy of potential. The market was still moving in my favor. The story hadn't ended. And when I resisted that urge to close early, I saw what few traders ever get to see: the real move, the main swing, the reward for patience that feels infinite. But here's the truth. The discipline of stillness doesn't come from comfort. It's born from pain. You don't learn to sit until you've been punished for moving too soon. You don't learn patience until the market teaches you what impatience costs. Every trader eventually faces that turning point, the moment they realize that the market isn't their opponent, but their mirror. It reflects their fears, their habits, their impulses, and if you are impulsive, it will expose it. If you are greedy, it will exploit it, and if you are patient, it will eventually reward you. And that's the paradox of this game. The less you try to force the market, the more the market works in your favor. When you stop trying to make things happen and simply let them unfold, the trades mature naturally. You can't harvest fruit before it ripens, and you can't harvest profit before it develops. The discipline is in the waiting. The waiting is where wealth is built. When I look back on my career, the trades that built fortunes all had one thing in common: time. I wasn't smarter than others, I simply held longer. While others were chasing new entries, I was holding the one I already had. That's the irony. The money they were searching for was in the trade they abandoned. But don't mistake stillness for stubbornness. There's a difference between holding a trade and hoping a trade. Stillness is disciplined, rooted in analysis and conviction. Stubbornness is emotional, rooted in ego and denial. The moment your reason for holding changes from logic to fear, you're no longer still, you're stuck. And the market punishes that just as ruthlessly as it punishes greed. True stillness means clarity. You know why you're in, and you know when you'll be out. Not because of emotion, but because of reason. You're not attached to the outcome, you're aligned with the process. That's the discipline I had to learn, often the hard way. Because every time I broke my own rule, every time I closed early for comfort, I robbed myself of the lesson that patience was trying to teach me. When you can hold with calmness, you reach a level few traders ever touch, where the market no longer controls you because you no longer seek to control it. You move with it, not against it. You flow instead of fight. And that's when trading becomes what it was always meant to be: a mirror of your own evolution, a daily test of your faith in your own judgment, a measure of your ability to stay composed while others chase chaos. If you can master that, you'll discover what I discovered after years of struggle: that the biggest profits aren't made in moments of brilliance, but in hours of patience. Hold your trades with understanding, hold your conviction with humility, and let the market do what it does best. Separate the impatient from the prepared. That's the final lesson. Not how to trade, but how to wait. Because in the waiting, you don't just build profits, you build character. And in trading, as in life, character always compounds faster than capital. So if this message reached you, if it reminded you of the trades you let go too soon, then take this as your signal, not from the market, but from yourself. Hold your ground, hold your belief, and above all, hold your discipline, because the next time you feel that urge to close early, remember this: the fortune isn't in the click, it's in the wait. If you found truth in these words, share them. Someone out there needs to hear this before they give up too soon. And if you're ready to keep learning the mindset that built and broke legends, then stay. There's more to learn, and as always, the lesson continues.